If you've ever asked yourself, how can I get the swing and the golf game that I've always imagined without trying every tip, every training aid, watching every video after video on social media, then this podcast is for you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the Imagen Golf Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Imagen Golf and PXG. Happy Monday, everyone. Today's episode is simply why you need to practice on a golf simulator. Exclamation point. Right? Look, it's kind of ironic. I did a podcast when we first started out, episode 1. We're on episode 5 now, 205 episodes to be exact. And the episode back then was the advantages of a simulator, right? Or the advantages of data, I think it was actually. But that's not even debatable anymore, right? 5 years down the road. We are at a point now where I don't think there's anyone, even old timers like me, that say you shouldn't be in a simulator. None of them. I can't. In doing some research for this podcast, there wasn't a single negative comment around it, or theory around it, or holdout around the topic. So I thought it'd be good to just kind of go through some reasons, some factual, data-driven, evidence-based reasons as to why you should get into a simulator. And look, I'm biased. There is no doubt about it, right? I've been indoors now. This is my third year doing about 98.9% of my lessons indoor. I made that switch after every year we look at our business and we take a look at it from a holistic standpoint, if you would, and we ask each other and go through with different people within the business and students and people outside the business for that matter. And we say, look, what can we do better? And one of the things that I noticed back 3 years ago was that all 10 of the top 10 instructors teach indoors, all 10 of them. So I called a couple of them. And one of them in particular, Hank Haney, who I went to see in person, he was a holdout for sure. And those who don't know what Hank Haney is, Hank Haney is in the Golf World Hall of Fame. His claim to fame is actually has numerous claims to fame, but I guess he's most known for working with Tiger Woods as his coach. Look, Hank says it the best, and you got to know Hank. He's really straightforward as a straight line, right? If that makes any sense. But look, he says, Daniel, the students just get better. Point paragraph, they get better quicker. And man, that's all I needed to hear. And that's when I made the move. And he is right. I've witnessed it firsthand through tens of thousands of lessons since I made probably. In 3 years, I've probably done over 10,000 lessons in a simulator, right? So, look, if you can, why guess if you can measure something, right? And that's not in golf, right? That's in everything. That's in life, right? But I think that was a perfect, segue into the podcast, if you would, right? Why guess if you can measure? And obviously, that's what a simulator does for us, right? It gives us the ability. There's no subjectiveness. There's no he said, she said in a simulator, right? It's precise. It turns, when I look back at some of my practices with coaches, man, I got to tell you, it was definitely guesswork, right? It turns that guesswork into science. There's no doubt about it. Right. And as long as you understand the science, and the data that drives the science, then you could be a really good golf instructor. I would argue it's easier today to be a really good golf instructor than ever before with data. So I thought I'd go through some hardcore facts, if you would. And they're definitely my top. So I guess my opinion of why you need to get into a simulator. But they're facts, right? So they're not subjective. They're just subjective in the sense that they're my top ones. So the first is just what we just started with, if you would, right? Which is, look, it is a data-driven diagnosis. I just did 2 lessons tonight. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm gonna put these videos up on our YouTube page. If you haven't been to our YouTube page, make sure you check it out. Um, the advice that they got from another instructor was so bad that and it wasn't even relevant or germane to what they really have going on, right? So it definitely wasn't data driven, right? How do I know? Because I asked them. Did the instructor have any data whatsoever? Did they use any video technology? Did they measure anything? The answer was a resounding no, right? So I'm not bashing golf instruction, but look, the advantage to being indoors on a simulator or even outdoors on a simulator is everything should be a data evidence-based driven diagnosis, right? So we use both Trackman and Foresight in our facilities, right? You could look, I could do a whole podcast on the advantages of one versus the other, but just the sheer volume that both of them give you, it instantly allows you to pinpoint what's going on with the swing, right? Here at Imagen, if you followed us at all, you know immediately that swing path, we believe that swing path is everything. Why? Because if you have an inside to outside swing path, just from a physics standpoint, you have a much better chance of striking the ball appropriately, right? Can you strike it from the outside in? You can. Can you strike it consistently from the outside in? You can't. So for me and all of us at Imagine Golf, the swing path or club path is the absolute creme de la creme of data, right? And if you're working on, and if you have a negative swing path, or if you, let's just say, an outside to inside swing path, and you're working on anything else, you are wasting your time. So that alone, just the fact that a data-driven diagnosis versus a subjective, hey, I think this is what you're doing, diagnosis, right, would be a reason, or would be the reason I should see, or I should say, right? What else does it, as far as data and metrics, does the sim give you? Well, look, it gives you 18, anywhere from 18 to 28 different data points. But some of the easy, obvious ones, club path we just talked about, face angle, right? The direction the club face is actually pointing at impact, right? That's pretty important, right? The angle of attack is simply like how steep or shallow that the club is moving vertically at impact, right? So you need to know what the optimum numbers are if you want to have the most efficient golf swing, right? And then smash factor is simply ball speed to club speed, right? The efficiency of your contact. Wouldn't it be nice to know how efficient your swing is, right? I mean, that's really all we work on at Imagine, making people more efficient in the confines of their golf swing, right? And if they do that, guess what happens? They immediately start hitting better golf balls. I mean, immediately. We have never, I just said to my wife yesterday, Sunday, that we're approaching 5,500 students, right? Out of 5,500 students, we have never had a student take a lesson and leave hitting worse balls than when they walked in, right? Maybe some of them move in, for Christ's sake, right? But you get the idea. So if that's the fact, and it is, my God, why are you still practicing outside, right? And it's not so much outside. Why are you still practicing without data? Doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Um, so that's the first advantage. I think the second advantage is, I call it like repetition with a purpose. Everything we do at Imagine has a purpose. We don't take any golf swing without a purpose. And that's a quote from Jack Nicklaus, right? I'm paraphrasing, right? But we isolate different feels, different skills, different techniques. We isolate those with a purpose in a simulator, and then we repeat it over and over and over again. At Imagine, we believe in the 7-7-7 protocol. So 7 in the drill, 7 in a regular stance, and we repeat that, right? 3 cycles. But it's very targeted, it's very specific, and all of our drills are very measurable. So if you have that in-depth focus on, for lack of a better, a custom or intentful or purposeful practice, right? You get better. Just when you say that out loud, how are you going to get worse? You're not. There's no chance you're going to get worse. What else can you do, right? Inside that you can't do outside? Hey guys, it's Daniel here. Hey, thanks for listening first and foremost. Handicaps haven't changed in over 35 years for one reason and one reason only. Traditional golf instruction just doesn't work. So if you're serious about getting that swing and game that you've always imagined, take a look at our site, imagengolf.com. Join our members only club. Check out my video series or even take a virtual or in-person lesson with me. There is no one who's more passionate about making you better in the industry, and I guarantee you'll golf better, guaranteed, or everything is free. Well, look, you can do things like gapping, right? If you're talking about in-depth, like custom practice, gapping is huge, right? What is the gap between your clubs? I guarantee you it is not 10 yards like when you go get fit at Golf Galaxy, right? And I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying, not everyone hits 10 yards in between their clubs. There's no chance. All right. What is your average carry distance? Right? The real true carry distance. Not how far you hit it on your best day with zero wind. By the way, there's never zero wind, but you get the idea, right? What is your average? They all the simulators give you some type of gapping program, or bag mapping or something like that. How about scenario training, right? When we practice at Imagine, when we talk about purpose, we put the student in different scenarios. Oh man, I stink from 60 yards in. I stink from the rough. I stink my 3-iron, I can only hit 150 yards. I have no option from 225 out. So we put them in those scenarios over and over and over again, right? And when you drill, right, in that same high pressure, awkward, spot repeatedly, you get better, right? And we're not talking about just hitting 20 times in a row or 50 times in a row or something like that, but we're talking about putting yourself in positions on the simulator that you would see in your real golf life, right? Simulating just that. Doesn't every pro team do just that, right? I know baseball players, they do a simulated game, right? Pro football players do a practice game or a scrimmage. Every a team sport does some type of scrimmage, hockey, basketball. You get the point, right? So you can do scenario training over and over and over again. And my God, the technology, if you're on an up-to-date sim, we just opened a new spot in Newtown, Pennsylvania called the Golf Place, little plug there, right? With 8 state-of-the-art simulators and a putting simulator. There's not a scenario that we can't simulate, right? Even when you hit out of the bunker, for God's sake, we got a pad that simulates the bunker, and then the technology puts a drag on the golf ball. So it's amazing. All right. And lastly, the most easiest one I think indoors is it's a controlled environment, no doubt. All right. You can regulate your perfect lie. I mean, you get a perfect lie, all the time. You can regulate that by, we have different mats that we put down. You can put the ball, above your feet, put the ball below your feet in our simulators, right? So we can control almost everything. We can control the wind, no wind, lots of wind, crosswind, no wind, right? We're not, you're not out there, waiting for, shagging balls like I used to as a kid, right? You're not out there with, you go to the driving range, you're working on your draw, and I'm right-handed. I'm working on my draw, and there's a 20-mile-an-hour crosswind coming from my left. And guess what? I'm hitting fades all day, right? So you don't have any of that in a simulator, right? Because it is definitely something that is controlled, right? So for me, control is everything in that I can be specific and I can target everything that I need to do to build the neural pathways that result, right, in a positive, consistent swing. All right. Some of you call that muscle memory as an example, right? All right. So that's number two. Number three, look, I think it is definitely the ultimate test for your equipment, right? I think a lot, in fact, I don't even think I know a lot of people think differently about their equipment uh, than it actually performs, right? So it's not just about, oh, my 7-iron goes 140, whatever the number is, right? It's more about like, do you even have a chance to hit the equipment that you think you're doing, right? So driver's a perfect example, right? If you don't have an appropriate club speed, an appropriate launch angle, spin rate, um, you're not going to hit the ball near as far as you want to. And the story, drop the mic. It's not going to happen, right? So, I got people all the time, students all the time that come in. They have a 10.5-degree driver. They're launching the ball at 7 degrees. Their angle of attack is a downward angle of attack, right? A negative angle of attack. And they're wondering why they're only hitting the ball 155 yards, right? It's not because they're older. It's because the physics don't match up. They got no chance. They literally got no chance. Not to mention, if you don't hit it in the center on a driver, it's going nowhere, right? So, um, the focus, the in-depth focus on optimizing your equipment, you can only do that in a simulator. You can only do that with data, right? No, none of you listening to this podcast are Sam Snead or Ben Hogan, where they can close their eyes, hit a ball, know exactly where they hit it, and they're right 99 times out of 100, right? So it really allows us to dial in our equipment um, precisely, right? Ball position is another one. I just had a discussion today with a couple students today. Oh, I saw this chart and is this the right ball position? The answer is a resounding no. That ball chart that you see primarily from Ben Hogan, driver off the heel and then every club, slightly back of that was perfect for him. It's not perfect for every one of you, right? So that you all of a sudden you can dial in. What is the best ball position for your 7-iron, right? I guarantee you it's not always in the center of your stance. And I also guarantee you it's not one ball back of center for all of you out there. It's different for everyone, right? Wouldn't you like to know where you can launch that ball the best, right? Wouldn't you like to play just a little bit better because the data tells you, or data has told you that, you know what? I used to put my 5-iron, 2 balls forward of center. Now when I put it only 1 ball forward of center, I hit it straighter, harder, and farther. Well, you can't do that I guess you could do it at the range, but you have to hit a shit ton of golf balls, man. So why bother? Just get in a simulator and work on it. All right. I think, look, I'm starting to ramble just a little bit, but the at the end of the day, it's practicing smarter and not harder, right? Could you dig it out of the dirt, as Hogan said, and till you hit balls until your hands? But of course you could, right? Are you going to do it? Of course you're not, right? It's a very special individual that is practicing to those lengths. And even if you are, there's no guarantee that you're going to get any better. None, right? So why not just get into a simulator and practice more with a purpose? Practice more with science and evidence-based findings behind you instead of these feel-good findings or feel-good feelings, I should say, that most of you are out there doing, right? If you're not measuring, Tiger Woods said, you're just hitting balls. That's a quote, right? So I think that about probably just, we should probably end with that, right? But at the end of the day, look, that's it, right? Start quantifying, stop guessing, and start quantifying. And I guarantee you will get better, right? At everything. I mean, everything. Can you practice a bunker in a simulator? Absolutely. Is it exactly the same as a driving range? No, or excuse me, as a course? No chance. Are there advantages and positives to going to a driving range? Absolutely, right? But at the end of the day, the technology is available to everyone listening to this call, right, or to this podcast. So get out there. Get out there, find a place, right? If you're within 20 miles, or excuse me, 40 miles of Philadelphia, find a place in Newtown, Pennsylvania called the Golf Place. Why? Because it's mine. Right? So come on out, check it out. You're absolutely going to love it. But all serious, look, we just broke down the massive advantages of practicing indoors on what I would call professional grade systems, right? Just to wrap it up, right? We learned that, look, The precision of the data is huge, right? The repetition with a purpose is huge. And the ability to train, let's call it like train like a pro, right? There's not a single pro on any tour or any collegiate player or any serious player that isn't training with with data on a simulator. And that's all that you need to know. All right. Thanks for listening. All right, then. That's today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the follow button wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to check out our site, imagengolf.com. Check out our YouTube page at Imagen Golf, and we're on all the social media platforms on the same at Imagen Golf. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. Hey, Daniel here. If you're looking to get new clubs, you need to consider PXG. And I know what you're thinking. PXG is too expensive, or I'm not good enough to get fitted for clubs. And look, I'm here to tell you that neither is true. PXG is no more expensive than any of the top manufacturers out there, and everyone and anyone will benefit from getting fitted for clubs. And here's the best part. It's literally free. That's right. Getting fit at PXG is free. So when you're ready to get a new driver, new woods, new irons, or even a new putter, simply let me know and I'll help you get the swing and the game you've always imagined with a new set of clubs from PXG.